Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day again to everyone. Thank you for joining my talk and thank you also for inviting me. I've chosen this topic that is close to, I believe close to the students and also I shared with PGSS last time and this will be more on the whatever I derive from the 20 common mistakes lah. But before we move further, normally I like to start with Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. So let's for the Muslims, let's start with Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Okay, so basically maybe there are more. So I let me try if I can also see. I want to see the chat actually, but I cannot see the chat now. I'm not sure because normally I use Webex. Lokman, can you help me how to? I want you to like write what is the common mistake that you think you normally do. But I cannot see. I have to stop sharing. Is it something like that?
Maybe I can read if anyone comment.
Okay. Because messages are also recorded. Okay. So when I go out of my presentation mode, then only I can see the chat. Otherwise I cannot see. I saw like Webex, right? Something different. Okay.
Let me try find the setting.
Okay. So okay, I maybe this one a tab. Okay, let me share again the slide. Okay, what I want, since Luqman will be telling to me, because I think this is a bit different from the normal setting for Webex where I can always see the chat. So I just want everyone to give at least one common mistake that you think maybe you do or you observe. Okay, so what is the first one? Maybe from Luqman yourself? First one?
From me, common mistake.
Okay, you read whatever available there.
Okay. Some unknown Naziha say formatting.
Formatting, okay, format, but I won't touch on format so much. Oh, okay, it's maybe related. Okay, fine. That is general that everyone should follow. Okay, next. Maybe we have three lah. At least three.
Nozila Ngadiman says UK versus US English.
Okay, the English. Okay. Next.
Asraful Shifat says scope too big.
Oh, the scope. Okay. Anyone has mentioned also?
Ishak Kamel said he asked plagiarism.
Plagiarism. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. But maybe it's we have different perspective and maybe what I mentioned maybe not that common anymore because students already realize and it's not become common mistakes. Maybe that it's reduced and very like isolated cases. Maybe some students still do. So I have a short introduction, then the common mistakes conclude and the Q&A. Okay. Meanwhile, since I believe you on your laptop, you also can open your thesis and when I say the common mistake, you find whether you have that common mistake or not. Okay. Talking about writing, actually before you enter UTM itself, you have written short proposal. So maybe 2 to 3 pages. But I believe some of you like graduate from UTM for UG, you are offered automatically. And this is where you didn't write any proposal at all. I believe some of you are like that. So next, you are aware that the second semester or the third semester, you have to present your proposal. So if you didn't write for your admission, the short proposal, now this is the time you have to write, and it straight away become extended proposal, right? Because you have to come up with the 4 chapters with the initial finding as the fourth one. And then the paper or the article, okay? So you have like the work in progress. So normally you try to, your supervisors will ask you at least one paper to a conference, maybe one article to a journal, which is good to record your work of progress. And also nowadays it's become common and you have to report what are your publication. And then you, of course, later on viva voice and your thesis, right? Normally 6 chapters. I think this one I elaborate when I shared at PGSS. Okay. So the first mistake, okay, you can have a look. I will try to make it short and keep to like 30 minutes of presentation. The first common mistake, then when I mention, you straight away can also check yours. Okay, do you do this? Okay, this is what also like Najia said, the format. But UTM format won't say this, so I say this because students do. Okay, the thing is, if you can avoid this, so it's like a blessing to your supervisors and also examiners, because we don't have to touch about these mistakes, more on your content of your work. So every mistake I will come up with the rule of thumb because we want to avoid how to avoid, so I give the rule of thumb or the guide, right? So if you can see here, these are considered very long. So anyone have this? When you look at your thesis, draft of your thesis, extended proposal, a paragraph, I would say if your paragraph is more than half of A4 page is considered a long paragraph. So you should split accordingly. So anyone say, you just say yes or no, you have it. Anyone say no, you don't have it, then that's good. Is there anyone say no or yes, Lukman?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So I hope you have a look so that you can see that you can avoid such simple. It looks like simple, but it's actually not good for your writing. Just now too long, too short, so it's a problem. And I do see this. For example, this how many sentences? There are 2, right? There are 2 sentences. So especially if your sentence also very short, so 2 sentences to be a paragraph is too short. So you should try to organize an idea in 1 paragraph or minimum maybe 3 sentences. Especially if your sentence is too short, right? And also a sentence cannot be too long, isn't it? Okay, we learn lah. We learn how to write either in Malay or English or whatever language we learn. How to write sentence. So each sentence should not be too long. Practice good sentence structure with proper use of conjunction. So you cannot have and a few, double and in one sentence, for example. If you have more than 2 ands, that means you will need to split into different sentences. So your writing style will be better. Okay, so this one, just now I mentioned about these 2 sentences, okay? It's quite common to students. So normally as an examiner, I won't highlight this mistake because we have so many things to highlight in the correction. So if you can give the best, avoid this mistake when you submit for your final thesis, for the viva, it will be very good, because examiners won't touch this part, but it will make your thesis very good, okay? Very clear also for them because you organize the idea correctly, not too long, not too short in your paragraphs, okay? So the third one, use present tense or past tense unnecessary. So you should use present tense unless when reporting the specific analysis derived from the research and you want to mention the experiment done, but the results and analysis and findings, result and discussion, analysis and findings actually can be reported as present tense. You can describe because it's the facts from existing works. Okay, so for the first part, you can read, right? So you can see the first part, which is the problem here. Okay, so I show here the CMM has gained such global acceptance. Okay, so it refers to the work from De Bruin 2005. Okay, so when we say like has gained, but this work actually I had the external evaluation examination, the thesis examination for the external student. So this student, it was in 2020. So when you look at the citation, the cited work is in 2005, isn't it? So you cannot say like this when you refer to any existing works. So just make it as present tense will be better to say that, okay, when we refer this word and it's still existing work, although it's in 2005, so we can just say the CMM gains the global acceptance, that high maturity score, something like that. So that is what we mean by present tense. Okay, so bear in mind as much as possible, the facts are still acceptable, and regardless what year of the work, so you don't need to make it past tense, past present perfect tense. Like this one has gained present perfect tense. Okay, for the second one, so which one? This one. So determine 5. So you just say the CMM has 5. Something like that, right? The CMM has 5. Why you have past tense here? Is the statement state about the fact. So the CMM states, okay. And remember, subject verb agreement, this one also common mistake, although we learn English for so many years, right? So CMM is one, for example. So instead of determine, I just use let's say I use the same verb. So I must say the CMM determines, I must add S or ES for some cases like go become goes, right? So this one also common mistake, but actually you know English, right? That is the very basic present simple tense. You don't need to use so many tenses. Just keep and bear in mind of this subject verb agreement. Singular subject, your verb should have S. Student always miss this. Okay, you have proofreader to check, but the lesser you make, the better. And of course, at the end, when you practice this, because we don't really need very good English, but so long you meet the basic English, this is fine in Malaysia, including UTM, right? So the CMM determines 5 maturity levels. So here, we use past tense, which were evaluated by previous studies. Furthermore, the available models. So here, the student referred to 2015-2009 work. Okay. Furthermore, the available model which were evaluated by previous studies. What is wrong here? Anyone? Can you type? What is wrong here? It says. Anyone can guess? I'm saying here the facts from existing works.
I think it's a passive voice, yeah?
Yes, passive voice is one thing. Yeah, correct, good. And of course, like I mentioned, no, you don't need to make it past tense. Later, passive voice also I will touch in one common mistake. Very good. From who just now? Lokman?
Is Zikri, Sabir.
Okay, good, Zikri. Okay, so instead of you say previous studies, in thesis you always refer as existing studies. Because whatever available existing studies. Because if you say like 2020, is it previous? Even like last month, is it previous? So you just say existing studies, existing works, and like your friend said just now, passive, yes, another common mistake. So here you just say the available models, now passive. So previous studies, I move lah because now I want to show you the present tense. Previous studies evaluate the available models. Okay. So previous studies is plural, isn't it? Evaluate without the S lah. Like the case just now, the verb must add S. Okay. So I hope you can see. the idea here, and also this one, it did not guarantee. So no need to make it past tense. Just because you say this is past and you even say previous studies, just say existing studies or related studies, something like that. Common mistake for this one, I just take an example of my own work, very old work already. Long headings for chapters, section and subsection. Okay, sometimes you try to like, people don't understand. Like chapter 1, maybe your purpose work, you really want to tell what you're doing. And sometimes in some cases, your chapter 4 is the same with your title. Maybe you can see how it can be different because your purpose work, chapter 4 is your purpose work. Maybe you want to highlight your method or whatever your purpose work and you provide the name. When proposal defense, you say initial finding, isn't it? So in the chapter 4, when you submit your thesis, you name the chapter with the specific name of your proposal, which is good. But try to see if it can be different from your title lah, your thesis title, and should not be too long. Okay. So let's say here we talk about a visualization method for Java programs, for example. Or your subsection, existing work, you give it very long, so you just say soft visualization method. Then when people understand that you are talking about visualization methods, and this is in literature review. So even without existing works, so use it very brief, your section naming, also your chapter naming. So avoid very long naming of chapters, section, subsection. Okay. And then the number 5, acronym and abbreviation. This also, as sometimes as examiners or supervisors, we also overlook, or we don't want to highlight too much when during the viva, you see. But of course, like I mentioned, if you can make this as your checklist before you submit, then it's clear. No more such common mistakes when you submit for the thesis. Okay. Okay, this is where you have the abbreviation without including the full form for the first time. Let's say you straight away say CSF like this, or you have the full form, we call it full form lah, and you have the acronym come together, but later you don't use the acronym. So what's the purpose of introducing the acronym, isn't it? So the rule of thumb is first sentence that introduce an acronym or abbreviation should provide the full form, then the rest should just use the acronym or abbreviation. So this is the mistake where you can see here, CSF good, CSF that use, but you still use the full name. Okay, remember so don't do this mistake. Okay, avoid this mistake. So the 6th one, passive voice, like your friend Zakir just now said. Actually in English, we are not encouraged to use passive voice. Okay, I believe you know Word can turn on the proofreader setting, right? Where you actually can see the blue underline or red underline. So of course spelling, you can see it becomes red, you can see. And of course you can set the language. For example, UK English or US English, like Nozilla said just now. Okay, you can set UK English in Word, and also in the dictionary there is also available English Malaysia, I think, something like that, specific for Malaysia that should follow UK. But normally, because you are exposed to US English, so maybe you want to set to US instead of UK for your thesis, but you have to be consistent. But in general, when you write in English, not like in Malay or your own English, I'm not sure, we are not encouraged to use passive voice. So here, what we should do is to identify the subject, like coincidentally what example already done just now, although it's like another common mistake. Identify the subject being explained to be stated instead of stating who does the action. So we use the active form. So we restructure the sentences so that the subject is subject in front plus predicate. So we move the subject in front. Like this one lah. Anyone can try how to improve this, and also this, and also this. Anyone can try how to? Yes.
If anyone want to comment, maybe he can state
Just
their name
unmute.
and
Just
comment.
unmute. Yeah, make it like a discussion. You can also check whether you have this kind of issue with your thesis. So you see here, this is passive, right? It's already described. So where is the subject? You are talking about chapter 2 now. This thing is actually described in this chapter 2. So instead of you make it passive, you make it active, that chapter 2 describes in detail the process for SOP development, for example, right? Then war bodies are shown, sub-profiles are shown in figure 2.6. How to avoid this? Anyone? What do you normally do? I believe most of you know such mistake. What should you do instead of putting that are shown in figure 2.6? What should it be? Anyone?
Lukman ni.
Okay.
Figure 2.6 shows the sub-profiles.
Yes, you're right. So here we got comma, right? So maybe you can say, and figure 2.6, because over here there is written as comma. Good, Lukman. And figure 2.6 shows, remember just now Lukman said shows with S, right? Because figure, that's only one figure. Shows, not past tense, shows the sub-profiles, for example. Right? Of course, the articles will have to take care lah actually. So at least this is the basic thing that you can avoid. E-billing software is further investigate for this required information. So solve it so that e-billing software is not in front. So what actually investigate this e-billing software, for example? So you can change the structure of the sentence. So you can do this, practice insyaAllah. Okay. Comment message 7.4, use we or I, like telling a story lah. Rule of thumb, direct to the point. We are computer scientists, just direct to the point. Example, we read the existing data papers to find the solution. Oh, you write something like this, and even you use we, right? Existing work, one work shows that, okay. Example, another example, from the teacher review, you only found 3 papers. You don't need to tell a story. You did lecture review, we only found 3 papers. That is like telling a story lah for me. It's actually happened. So change your way of writing. Instead, direct to the point. Current works by who, show that, and how to avoid the we or I. Like in this example lah. So here there are 2. In this thesis, I searched just now, got 3. In examination, I didn't highlight lah the use of we. But I believe this is when you copy paste to your papers, right? So can you use we in your papers? Anyone would like to answer? In your papers, not your thesis. Anyone have an opinion? Okay, so everyone is passive now, not active. So make it. So in your papers, it's okay, right? But if let's say you extract whatever in your thesis to be papers, and in your thesis you know that you should avoid using we. So most probably your papers do not have we. I, of course, you should not have. But sometimes I still see maybe by mistake lah. But we is quite common. That's why it's become common mistake. So if in that case, maybe your papers without we, because you actually extract from your thesis. But if let's say you write your paper first and you use we to make it active voice, like your friend said, just a basis voice cannot be used. So you we. You report in your paper or using we, which is okay. But later you copy paste because you want to complete your thesis, and you leave the we in your thesis. This should be avoided. So you have to reorganize, rewrite the structure of the sentence, and this is where you should avoid using the passive voice. And of course, you can also refer. Sometimes you have to say, if you really do not know what subject, you still say that we, how to change. You maybe say this thesis, this research, the experiment in this research, something like that, the proposed method in this research, this thesis. So number 8, you probably state the details of a paper or article or even URL in the text. I think URL is maybe UG students lah always do. I think PG now aware that you should not put your URL. So cite, the rule of thumb is cite referred sources, leave the details in the reference list. Just like this example, but it's actually just mentioned about a report by the McKinsey. So you don't need to actually say, oh, this work that I refer is a report. And then in this example, although this one is mentions about Global Institute, big data, this Global Institute. So there is a detail that there is a report by McKinsey Global Institute. But when I see the citation, then there are 3 works being referred. Talking about this report or what? Okay, this is also related to what you cite, whether the statement that you write cited correctly or not. Okay, this one seems not that correct. Besides the is mentioned about the McKinsey Global Institute and the report. Okay, so you should actually leave the details in the reference list instead of you provide the detail. Even I have ever seen also students write like the conference name in the in the text, and mention that this paper from which conference, which is maybe for beginners lah, so you can avoid this mistake. Okay, explain why writing the chapter. This one still very common. You can check whether you have it or not. Have a look. Maybe you go to chapter 3. So what you should do is direct to the point, introduce the chapter and its contents. Same with chapter 2 lah. For example, it's about literature review. You don't need to start with saying that literature review is needed for what, something like that. Direct to the point that you should say this chapter describe the research procedure to be carried out and its design and whatsoever for this particular chapter. Okay. So like this lah, the development guidelines are very helpful to guide. Yeah, we know already chapter 3 should list all this for the researcher, right? So you don't need to actually having these statements in your, when you introduce your chapter 3 for example, or chapter 2, research methodology. And maybe chapter 4 you don't have this mistake lah because talking about proposed work directly, right? Okay, now we already in 10. Lokman, what is the time now? Because I'm in full screen now.
Now is 2:34.
Okay, 2:34 already. Okay, I try to make it fast. Okay, so repeat cited authors' names in a sentence. Because we have the citation, right? So avoid repetition of author names in the same sentence because it's already part of the or you write author's name as part of sentence. Okay, this is also a common mistake where actually you should avoid to repeat the author names because you have the author, because you use author here. But I believe at UTM you are also allowed to use number reference, right? Use numbering instead of author here or author date lah. We call it author date also. So here you mentioned this also sometimes common mistakes, maybe not many, sometimes you overlook, you just mention the author Instead, you just put the author with the year in bracket. So that actually will improve your writing, so that you actually avoid repeating. Because the citation itself become part of the sentence. But you don't make like this one. You bracket and assume that bracket as part of the sentence. This one quite common. So avoid doing this. Otherwise, you just put at the end with that particular bracket. So have a look at your citation styles. And actually, supervisor no need to mention about this. You should know. Okay. So cite by name without the year. So here, okay, I think this is really like a mistake lah. If let's say you use like Mendeley or integrated or the whatever citation tool, isn't it? So you can avoid this kind of mistakes unless you don't realize that actually you are citing the reference over here. So also I encourage you to use author date or author use the year with the author just like this one to avoid the mistake also in your citation order and so on. Okay. Oh sorry, this one should be it's not wrong lah, so this one correct. So that is tag wrongly also. So citing own papers. Okay. Rule of thumb is although this one maybe you overlook, rule of thumb, publish papers, report work in progress of your research that you extract from the thesis. So you should not cite the paper during your thesis, master or PhD to be cited. So if you have even one, it should be corrected lah. The work itself should be discussed in the thesis as part of your research. But if let's say you do your PhD thesis, can students cite, can you cite your own master papers? Anyone would like to answer? Yes or no?
Nozila Ngadiman says can.
Yes, okay, thank you, Nozila. Yes, so let's say Nozila doing PhD thesis, so I suggest her to cite her master's papers that have the relevance or related to the scope of the PhD. So it's okay, you cite and put it in the reference because it's not part of your PhD work. Okay, common mistake 13 includes so many quotation. So what you should do, paraphrase wherever possible. For the definition, maybe you need to quote because you avoid you want to retain the original meaning, for example, right? So, but what I show here is that there are too many definitions listed in this example. Okay, so what you should do, choose certain standards and limit to the latest definition rather than like, for example, here 1998, 1990. Sometimes it's not necessary to list all. Just direct to the point, choose the most recent. For example, IEEE standard, what is the definition for this software quality, like reliability, usability, and so on. Okay. Make cross-reference. So we as researchers always bear in mind to read the primary source of the references to be cited. Like this one is called cross-reference lah. So suppose I should get the paper by Tan and understand what it says, not just concluding what Tan says based on stories reading. So we should get the primary source, not secondary, and then we cite also, make it cross-reference in our own thesis. Unless the paper is not available, maybe like 80s, but still the theory you need to refer, then okay, you refer to that particular source, later publication, because it's not available anymore, but you still need to refer, you can do that. Okay. This is number 15. Okay, have a look whether you have figures or caption or tables without any labels, and all figures and table must be tagged and listed in the front matter, right? Figure list, table list. Okay. And you have what and I believe you also know that you should follow this numbering in sequence. Whereby in paper, you have figure 1, 2, 3, you don't use the dot, right? The second level. But in thesis, you need the second level. This is why people, students sometimes they maybe copy from the papers and they make mistake and don't change, or you insert new figures and they are not in sequence. So just have a look and check again when you submit your final thesis to be for your viva. Repeat the same figure or table in different chapters. This one also I ever seen. Or it's quite similar, but actually the tables are telling the same, but the student include that table in later chapter with little differences only. Or exactly the same figure I ever I counted also in a viva. Figures or table that should be explained first must be inserted first, and other text follow should refer accordingly. Okay. So you should refer the figure or table regardless where it is first mentioned. That's why we use the numbering, isn't it? So because later chapter or later section can refer whatever figures or tables that you have included earlier, but not refer. You don't refer in future. I mean later. You don't. That means if you refer later, that figure or table must be there in that particular section that you need that particular figure or table. So that's why if you say see the one in other chapter in front, the following chapter, then it's something is wrong in your thesis writing lah, your writing style. So common mistake 17, include figures or tables without referring to them in the text. Maybe this one also, I believe you know, but you overlook. So ensure that all figures and tables need an explanation, and it should be done before, not after. So you will say that figure for 2.1 illustrate what, and is before the figure. But of course you have more detail, right? So the detail can be after the figure. Because if the detail for, let's say you have too many, then you have second paragraph to mention about figure 2.1. So that second paragraph can go after the figure. And the text that first mentioned the figure must be close to each other. So you don't put the figure very much later at the text. Same like when you write your paper lah, right? Okay, for number 18, split figures or tables on different pages. Even in your papers, you are not encouraged to do this. Because why? And you have a look also, if your figures and tables not simplified and cannot fit one page, maybe your figures and tables, something wrong with your figures and tables. Normally tables lah, continued. So normally with this kind of very detailed or many long table with long contents, you put in appendix and maybe landscape. So put in appendix and refer as appendix in your text, or otherwise you can simplify the figure and tables by organizing into certain groups. Otherwise you still need to do, then you just tag it with continue. Don't see page 3 pages, that table continue without even label. Avoid that. So I think we're about to finish. For the number 19, use wrong format in table label and figure caption, not citing those done by other people, existing works. Okay, this one still students do. For example, labels should be on top of tables, caption should be below. So we don't call caption for tables, right? It's labels, that's why it's on top. And normally it should be center lah. I believe thesis center. Figure, the latest one I'm not sure, but what I understand last time, if more than 2 lines, left justified for the second, left justified the caption. Okay, I think you should see the latest one. Labels and caption should be simplified. If let's say you have figure, caption 3 lines, there is something wrong. Okay, make sure it's simplified because the explanation of that particular content in the table or figure should be in the text, not in the caption of the figures or the label of the tables. Understand, Okay, last but not least, about the details of the proposed work, sometimes you mixing. This also maybe happen for your evaluation chapter. Maybe the details of your experiment you explain in your evaluation chapter, or you actually explain your proposed work because you mixing with the theoretical framework, you misunderstand and you put in chapter 3, for example. So I would say in chapter 3 is how actually what your proposed work is what. So that's why your chapter 4, if you notice, you don't cite anymore. Have a look. If your chapter 4, because it's your proposed work, right? It's your work, then you don't need to cite anymore. The citation come when you do literature review. The citation come when you state whatever the analysis, what method you use, data collection, you cite. That is chapter 3. But in chapter 4, it's all what you do. But the how you formulate the experiment, how you choose the sampling, whatsoever in your survey, for example, should be in chapter 3. So when you move to chapter 4 or even chapter 5 for evaluation, you already stated how you collect your data and justify there in chapter 3. So I hope this is clear, and also don't miss up with your justification, proposed work diagram that it should be in your chapter 4, you put in chapter 3. But justification on the how part, why you use a survey, why you use this questionnaire, this Likert scale, why you use 5 instead of 7 and so on, you put in chapter 3. And also I put some extra notes over here. If you want this, I can share to Luqman and Luqman can email to you all. Anyway, it's just 20, but actually there are more and it can be 30 common mistakes and so on. So make mistakes are acceptable. Learn to avoid them, as repeating mistakes are not wise. That is my opinion lah. It's okay, but now I share with you. I hope that everyone really look at your mistakes, identify, exclude that mistake, avoid that mistakes, so that you have a wise submission of this. And it's very it's a blessing for your supervisors and your examiners also can focus only on your content, not these minor mistakes. I think that's all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shahida, for the valuable sharing. So indeed, these mistakes mentioned are common when we write our thesis. So these tips provided by Doctor are very useful for us. So now we will open the Q&A session. If anyone has any question or comment regarding the topic shared just now, so you can unmute and voice out your question.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so I think no questions. Okay. Do you want the slide?
Yes, I will ask
Okay.
the slide later.
Okay.
If there is no question. Okay, now I would like to invite Ms. Siti Julia to start his research progress presentation. Sorry. Doctor, there's questions in the comment.
Assalamu alaikum. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shahida. Just I want to ask you regarding plagiarism,
Okay.
Yeah. So mashallah, you have a lot of experience. Could you guide us for the students how to avoid and how to write better, in our own sentences? Just we need your support or just guide us for that, how we can do a better for the writing,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, understand.
Thank you.
Okay. I will share my opinions, and since we talk about writing today, right? And then of course later I believe other lecturers, we can see Dr. Raini also here. It's also here, maybe can elaborate also, can add other points. So I believe in plagiarism, like I mentioned about just now, quotation. So using quotations for especially for definition to retain the actual meaning, original meaning. Okay, that is acceptable.
Okay.
So that means you take word by word, right? So quotation means the quote double quote lah. Use double quote like in example just now. Yes. So you can, that is acceptable. Of course, you cite at the end. But for your, like, I believe, especially referring to chapter 2 lah, Mustafa. And you refer to chapter 2, there are many existing words that you read and you rewrite. That this is where paraphrase lah. We need to paraphrase. That's why I'm not sure. Yeah, I shared before. The technique is SD summarize, describe, SDCL. Summarize, describe, criticize, link. So summarize, when you summarize, you use your own word. This is where the paraphrase. Summarize and then describe. Sorry, it should be we describe first. Sorry, describe the work. Summarize. So DS, summarize, criticize. CL, link with works. Link with your work. So this is where with this in one paragraph, actually you will have a number of citation because you try to describe, summarize 2 or 3 works, for example, then you cite and you criticize the works. It's your own word, right? And you link the work, among the works you link, and also with your work you link, for example. So automatically you will avoid this copy paste lah, and plagiarism is there. Yeah. So this is where your turn in will be clear lah. Although in chapter 2, isn't it? And of course, another type of plagiarism is that the idea where you rewrite, but it's not your idea, it's someone else's idea. That could happen in chapter 4. But I hope UTM student or our own school student won't do this lah. So it's someone else's idea, but you don't cite because you know you copy that idea and you don't even cite, right? That this is something that maybe examiner still can spot if they really expert in that area. Maybe Dr. Naini would like to add to my point. Dr. Naini? So I have also here, tak apa, Dr. Naini tak ada point lah. Muhammad Anwar here, question how one can manage flow of each chapter. Manage flow, okay. Because I like that, about writing is a lot of angle and aspect. Content is another thing, like I mentioned, I share APGSS. Today I focus on the common mistakes that should be avoided. For the flow of the, for Anwar, right? I'm responding to Anwar's question here. Mustafa, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. Thank you very much. Yes,
you're welcome. So basically for the flow, this is what I mentioned just now. Like for example, chapter 2, when you start the introduction of that chapter, you don't mention literature review is something this. So you don't need to explain about literature review, but you explain about what is it in chapter 2 you want to write. Okay, if you like to read books, especially that textbooks, isn't it? You will see how they write their textbook in very good way, for example lah, or maybe a good thesis as example. Maybe your supervisors give you sample of past students' thesis, even their own thesis probably, but I don't give my own thesis to students to be followed because obsolete, right? This format different, expectation different, so you don't really follow exactly, which you find there are mistakes, you don't follow, although it's given and that student already passed, because sometimes your supervisors overlook, do not have enough time to check one by one in terms of the writing style. Okay, so you have to actually find the correct way of doing things lah based on the example. So here when you say writing the chapter, introduce the chapter, what are to be written in the whole chapter you introduce, and then followed by the subsection accordingly. The first paragraph normally when you go to the section, you straight away will explain the section. But like I mentioned just now, okay, another thing that I want to highlight also, when you have one section but there is only one paragraph, probably that section should not be a section. Anwar, is related to your question, the flow. So there is only 2-3 sentences, a paragraph in that one section. So consider to put it in the previous section or combine with other section. This is where you can avoid like four level of subsections for your thesis, which look very good for examiners. Also very easy to see the flow of your thesis writing. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Anwar, I hope I answer you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now, anyone has any more question? Okay, if there's no more question, I would like to invite Ms. Siti Julia to start her research progress presentation.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good day everyone. Okay, so thank you for this opportunity so that I can share my research here. So I'm Siti Julia. My supervisor is Associate Professor Dr. Shahida Sulaiman and my co-supervisor is Dr. Hasnah binti Mohammed. So let me share my slide first. Okay, can you see it? Yeah, wait.
Okay, can.
Okay. Okay, so let me introduce my research title first. Okay, my research title is Mobile Technology Educational Integration Model to Enhance Teaching and Learning English. I hide this one. Okay, so this is my outline for the presentation. I will start with introduction, literature review, research methodology, proposed model, evaluation and conclusion. So let me start with introduction. So rapid development in mobile technology actually affect our social life, okay, and it give great impact in many sectors, including education. So learners in school, they are come from Generation Z, which they prefer to communicate through technology. So to engage them in the learning process, they need an alternative method to ensure that they can actively engage in the learning process and they can create a high level satisfaction in the 21st century learning environment. So it's still challenging on how to perceive and adopt mobile technology to access learning materials, content of learning, and establishing communication between the educators and also learners. Okay, based on Malaysia Education Blueprint, different approaches and tools can be applied to raise students' motivation, attitude, and critical thinking. So, mobile technology is one of the meaningful tools that can be used to solve this problem. Okay, for the problem background, okay, there are still many issues in learning English and also there are still many issues in teaching English. So for this research, I come up with these issues. For learning English, there are still not enough supported atmosphere for the non-native speakers to master the language, okay, as English is a second language and English is not a mother tongue. So learners, they need supported from peers, from family, from society, but somehow we lack of this. Okay, sometimes we lack of this. So based on this kind of situation, the students lack of self-confidence and anxiety. Okay, afraid to speak in front of the teachers, they're afraid to speak in front of the peers in front of the learners because they think they are not good enough. Okay, so for issues in teaching English, there are still some teachers that have low awareness level of new technology that can be integrated in the teaching and learning environment. So they not apply a static teaching approach and the lack of teaching aids and materials. So they don't use technology to enhance their teaching. Okay, something needs to do to change traditional teaching method to technology-based teaching and learning method. So we have to come up with a solution that can help to develop students' proficiency and experience to achieve the Malaysia Education Blueprint. Okay, as English language, we have 4 skills. Okay, to be proficient, which are speaking skill, reading skills, writing skills, and also listening skill. So it come up. Okay, we have mobile technology that can we use to be one of the tools that provide dynamic and proactive teaching and learning to create interesting learning process and to develop students' confidence. Okay, for the problem statement for this study, I come up with from the reading. I come up with a teacher who still stick with traditional teaching method and not fix their mindset to adopt the technology in the teaching and learning process will not be able to use all the available advantages by the technology. Okay, we have a lot of resource by using the technology. So if the teacher don't want to change their mind to use the technology, so students cannot get the benefit. So change needs to take place in education with educators supporting learners by delivering learning experience that are innovative, exciting, and relevant that triggers students' motivation, okay, through the learning process. So however, teachers and students who are not willing to take on new challenges will affect the acceptance of new technology in the learning process. So for the theoretical framework, okay, theoretical framework that holds and support the study come from mobile learning, mobile assisted language learning for learning language means for learning English, from 21st century pedagogy and also from the technology adoption theory. Okay, so for this study, technology acceptance model 2. So this theoretical, we combine 4 skills: communication, critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity. While for the mobile learning, based on the mobile technology features, we combine all the components which are teacher, assessment, learner, environment, and content, to come up with the one model. So the following are the 3 research questions and also 3 research objectives for this study. So based on the research question, I come up with 3 research objectives. Okay, the first research question is to systematically identify components and acceptance factors influencing teaching and learning English using mobile technology. For second research objectives is to propose a mobile technology educational integration model that is incorporated with the identified component and factors. And last research objective is to evaluate the proposed model to enhance teaching and learning English using mobile technology. Okay, so why this research is significant? So there are 2 parts, for the learners and for the educators. So for the learners, this research is significant because we need to raise the students' motivation, and they can have many advantage, for accessibility of the technology in their learning process, because with mobile technology and internet connection, they can have the knowledge that like a virtual library, lots of knowledge, and learners learn learners can learn and develop essential skills for 21st century that I mentioned before using 4C elements. Okay, for the part of educators, okay, the use of technology in teaching English benefit them to create different atmosphere for the learners. Okay, and it allows educators to diversify their roles of advisor. Other than teacher, they can be advisor, they can be a content expert, they can be instructor and also facilitator during the learning process. Okay, so the role of teachers extend. Okay, so for the next outline, I try to present in 20 minutes. Okay, so the next outline is literature review. Okay, so some literature were reviewed to gain insight in terms of mobile technology theories, M-learning, technology acceptance, and also mobile technology. So the use of mobile technology in learning environment actually can help learners to increase their motivation and engagement. Okay, so next for this study, I did SLR, okay, which contain 4 process. Okay, the first one is we identify the research questions. Then based on the research question, we conduct the research process. Okay, here is the step. We have initial research, then we refine the research, we record, organize, and categorize. Okay, after that, we move to the next process, which is inclusion and exclusion process. Okay, based on the article that we get, okay, we categorize based on related research field. Okay, if the article meet the source rank and keywords, okay, and also in English, so we include in the SLR. Okay, if the article not meet the criteria, so we exclude from the SLR. So next is for quality evaluation. So for the quality evaluation, we will discuss the factors, components. Okay, we mentioned existing works and discuss the gaps and issues that found from the existing works. Okay, so the result for SLR, okay, the end result for this study we have 59 articles selected, okay, based on the keywords that determined before. Okay, we have 4 keywords. Keyword 1 based on factors, keyword 2 issues, keyword 3 existing works, and keyword 4 mobile technology in teaching and learning English. So at the end we have 59 articles selected for the SLR. So for the discussion, there are some important factors concerning teaching and learning English that I categorize based on the factors. Okay, the first one we have social influence, okay, from different studies, from the different existing works. Okay, we have intention to use, perceived usefulness, readiness, perceived ease of use, usability, perception, and motivation. So these factors are the factors that mostly found from the existing study. Okay, so next is do the articles report important components concerning teaching and learning English using mobile technology? The study, so the SLR find out 6 main components, okay, from the existing studies, which are teacher, pedagogy, technology, content, learning environment, and learners. So mobile technology is in technology component. So next for the discussion, for do the articles clearly discuss the strengths and limitation of the existing works? So I categorize the existing works based on 3 categories. The first one is framework, model, and approach. So for each existing works, I go through one by one, and the strength and weakness for each existing works are listed in this table. And from the weakness, I try to find out the solution that can be solved in this study. Okay, for next, do the articles discuss the issues and gaps in the existing works? So there are 3 issues that I found from the study. Okay, first one is how to promote and facilitate teachers' competency by providing mobile application that follow the curriculum. Okay, this study from Fleischer 2012. And next is how to guide learners' attention and provide connectivity. Okay, and how to accommodate new skills using mobile technology. So there are many skills that we can learn using mobile technology. So this research can identify other skills that can we integrate in the learning process. Okay, next outline is for research methodology. So this study adopts the research procedure by Bloomberg et al. So which it divided into 5 process. The first one is problem definition and literature review, where I defined the research questions, objectives, scope, and I did my SLR. And next is for the next process is for proposal. Okay, documentation of research activities and preliminary work. And next process is for research design and implementation. So this study uses quantitative and qualitative approach using experiment and questionnaire. So the experiment for this study took 8 weeks of implementation due to time constraint, and I conducted with 30 Form 2 students, for 30 secondary students, as experiment group. And this experiment applied all components that identified for this study. So for next process is analysis, finding, and discussion. So for evaluation part, we will focus on experiment. Okay, so 8 weeks focus on reading and grammar skills using iPad mini. Okay, 2 hours per week in 8 weeks. Okay, so the participants are there are 2 groups of participants, which are English teacher and Form 2 students. So material for the evaluation, we use GQM plus strategy model by Basili. And for the design, this experiment using iPad mini and mobile apps that selected, which is Poplet, Keynote, Johnny Grammar, Johnny Grammar, and also Merriam-Webster dictionary. So for dictionary, students can use online dictionary or offline dictionary. So the evaluation is to measure success factor and acceptance of the learners for the implementation of the proposed model. So last process is thesis writing, where I documentation of the thesis writing, which documentation of research activity and findings. So this is GQM plus strategy model. It divided into 2 parts. GQM plus strategy elements and also GQM graph. So for the first one, GQM plus strategies element. We use the GQM plus strategy elements to outline our research goal, the context of the research, and also the strategy for evaluation. And for GQM graph, it describes our measurement goal, how to measure the goal of study. And we use the questionnaire and metric defined in the question. So for the experiment, this is research strategy. For the experiment, we select the respondents as an experimental group, 30 of students. Then we do pre-evaluation questionnaire. The treatment in 8 weeks, using iPad mini and selected mobile application with implementation of M-Team. Then after we completed 8 weeks of experiment, we conducted post-evaluation questionnaire and then analyze data and measure the model. So next is proposed model. This is my proposed model. I call it as M-Team, which is Mobile Technology Educational Integration Model. team. So as preliminary study, I conducted semi-structured interview for English teacher, okay, to identify the motivation, the perception, and to identify components that relate to this study, which are teachers that I mentioned before. The components are teachers, technology, contents, pedagogy, learning environment, and also learners. So other than semi-structured interview for English teacher, I also conducted a survey for the teachers and also for the students to identify factors that related to the study. Okay, so this is the survey outline for the teachers and students. Okay, and this is component included in the M team, okay, which are a combination of learner's profile, content, pedagogy, learner's role, learning environment, and technology. So for the experiment, all these components are studied together with the English teacher to plan it very well and to make sure all the components are included in the experiment. So this is the description for each component and sub-component. Okay, this one is for student survey. The question I coded with the Q code, and this is the analysis for student survey. Okay, based on perceived enjoyment, perceived usefulness, behavior intention, perceived ease of use, and mobile technology usability. Okay, it shows that all the factors have positive impact, okay, to the integration of mobile technology. Okay, if we look at the analysis for perceived enjoyment, okay, it is important to predict the acceptance of mobile technology in the learning process as the user feels they feel enjoy to use the mobile technology. This one is for teacher survey to identify factors for teachers. And this is finding for the teacher survey. Okay, most of the respondents means for the teachers, they have positive intention towards the mobile technology use in the teaching and learning process. So they also are aware and ready to integrate mobile technology in teaching. Okay, and most of the respondents, they have positive view by using mobile technology that they can become skillful. But somehow in school, we still have lack facilities, okay, to integrate technology in for all students. So we have to select certain class, okay, to experience with the technology. So other than that, using mobile technology is enjoyable, pleasant, and fun. Okay, they also said most of the respondents have positive view that mobile technology is effective in helping them conduct the lesson effectively. So this is the components and sub-component for the implementation. For the learner's profile, teachers must discover and adopt suitable learning style using visual, auditory, and kinesthetic to suit with the students' learning style. And for prior knowledge, students need to connect the learning with the previous knowledge that they learned before. So for each component, okay, I already stated the subcomponents and description. Okay, for the teacher's role, for the content, okay, for the content learning, we follow the curriculum, okay, and we only focus for the reading skill and also grammar skill. Okay, for the learning environment, this experimentation using face-to-face teaching and learning process. Okay, for collaborative learning means for the experiment, the students sit in group, in group of 3, and the group members remain same until the end of the experiment. So along the experiments and the learning process, students develop their 4C elements, which are collaboration. They collaborate with their group members and also they communicate with group members and also the other peers. Okay, they develop their creativity by come up with the come up with the great outcome using the mobile apps. Okay, example, the student using Poplet to create mind map. So basically the students, they can design the mind map creatively. Okay, and the design is different from group to group. Okay, based on the creativity. So also they build their critical thinking skills in order to complete the learning activities. Okay, so this is other components which are technology and pedagogy. Okay, so for the technology, we identify the subcomponent which are device features. Okay, for the mobile technologies, the features which are mobility, portability, and accessibility. In terms of the size, the weight of iPad mini, so it is easier for the student to live and carry around during the learning process. So for the connectivity, during the experiments, we connect with the Wi-Fi, okay, using the internet. We connect with the internet using Wi-Fi so that students can explore more. Okay, other device features for iPad mini, which is touch screen. Okay, touch screen is it's fun and intuitive to use compared we use using mouse or using mouse. So touch screen is better, is very good, okay, where they can zooming in and zooming out, okay, so they can easily focus for the activity. So for the mobile apps that used in the experiment, we use Keynote for presentation app. Okay, the students created animated presentation slide, okay, and also for Poplet, they use to create creative mind map, okay, based on the teacher's instruction and also based on the learning task. Okay, so for Johnny Grammar and also for offline and online dictionary to enrich their vocabulary. Okay, for pedagogy, subcomponents, we focus on assessment, learning activities, and also teacher strategy. So all these components, the English teacher, include in her lesson plan, so that every time she conduct the lesson, okay, these components must be included in her lesson plan. So next outline is evaluation. So the evaluation strategy, we aim to, the goal is to measure student success factors, student satisfaction, and acceptance factors of integrating components in teaching and learning English using mobile technology. So the evaluation based on questionnaire, observation, and also model comparison. Okay, so for the questionnaire, this is the design of the questionnaire. Okay, we have four sections. The first section is for task information. Section B is for demographic data. Section C is for success factor, which are perception, motivation, perceived enjoyment, mobile self-efficacy, and also student satisfaction. And last section is for section D. This one is for acceptance factors that adopt from Term 2, technology acceptance models, okay, that include social influence, cognitive instrumental, perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and also behavior intention. Okay, for the questionnaire, okay, the questionnaire is based on the GQM strategy that I mentioned before. And I coded the questionnaire with map with the components. Okay, if you can see here, C is for content, P is for pedagogy, T is for technology, TR for teacher's role, LP for learner's profile, and LE for learning environment. So for each statement, okay, it will comprise at least one of the components. So actually this is the model, but I need to revise again this model. Okay, the components and factors is same, but I need to redesign again to make sure it is nice to see. Okay, because I think I need to refine this one. Okay, so this is the analysis for the questionnaire for section B. This one is for demographic data. Okay, This one is for analysis for section C, which is for success factors include perception, motivation, perceived enjoyment, self-efficacy, satisfaction, and also mobile technology usability. So based on the analysis, okay, mean of all factors is more than 3. Okay, means most of the respondents agreed with those factors, and the highest mean score is satisfaction, which is it means that they have high learning satisfaction level with the implementation of MTeam. Okay, this one is for analysis for section D, which is for acceptance factors that adopt from Thumb 2. Okay, for the analysis, the mean of all factors is also more than 3, means most of the respondents agreed with those factors, and the highest factors is voluntariness, means the student willing to use iPad if they have the opportunity to experience it. Okay, because the students is from Generation Z that we know that they love technology. So once I bring the iPad, the teachers bring the iPad in the classroom, they feel eager, they feel motivated and want to learn more. Okay, so for the findings, majority of the respondents they already have the basic requirements and have high motivation to participate in the learning process integrated with iPad mini and mobile application. So now we are facing with MCO for third phase. So students need to learn using their own gadget at the home. So actually they have experience. If the students experience using mobile technology at school, so they know how to complete the activities and how to actively engage with the learning, even we are not face to face. Okay, so next for the finding is the respondents portrayed their positive perception on the integration of iPad mini and mobile application, and students develop their 4C skills. Okay, they're creatively using the iPad mini and mobile apps to complete their reading tasks. Okay, they develop their communication skills. Okay, when they present their work. Okay, they also develop their critical skills during the discussion, and for collaboration skill, they also implement this skill to complete the learning activities in group with their group members. So for the observation, okay, during the experimentation observation, we find out positive responses and also negative responses. Okay, for positive responses, the students show happy expression. Okay, every time the iPad mini brings to the class. Okay, the interaction between the group members more confident. They can speak in English. Even they speak in simple language. Okay, so they build their confidence, and also they're eager to follow teachers' instruction and show their creativity by using the iPad minis and mobile application. So there are some students that they are more independent. Okay, then these students can act as a facilitator during the learning process. Okay, for the negative responses, there are still negative responses for this experiment. Okay, there are some students, they are diverted their attention during the learning process because they got distracted by other mobile apps on the iPad mini, and also they want to explore other application. Okay, but the important roles for the learning process is teacher. So teacher need to make sure that the learning outcome have to achieve. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this is model comparison based on some criteria. Okay, I compared the model based on accomplishments, structure, best feature, disadvantage, and finding. So for model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it, and this one is not complete yet. Okay, so for the model comparison, I still working on it So I think that's all for today. This acknowledgement goes for Kejora and also for IK. Okay, I think that's all for my presentation today. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Siti Julia, for the presentation. Now, if anyone has any question or comment regarding the research presented just now, you may ask them. Maybe Dr. Shahida, the supervisor, has question.
Lukman, I already asked her before. It's okay.
Okay.
Maybe other student doing something about education can ask. So I don't have any question for Julia because I already asked.
If there's no question, so I see there are several not the members of SERG here. So I would like to take this opportunity to promote our YouTube channel. Let me share. So in our YouTube channel, we compile all our previous colloquium, so you can watch them. I put in the comment. If anyone is interested, you can watch the previous colloquiums there. Okay, so thank you everyone, and also thank you again Dr. Shahida for the sharing and Miss Julia for the podcast presentation. If there is nothing else.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you to our Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you also, Lukman.
You're welcome. So I guess we can end our colloquium for today. Thank you everyone for joining today's colloquium. Have a great day, stay safe, and see you again in the upcoming colloquiums. Assalamualaikum, and you can leave the meeting now.